I remember people would look at me like, dude, why would you want your own business, right? Obviously, the economy is run on the backbone of business owners. Welcome to Have It All. Kris Krohn here, and I am holding in my hand a certificate of lordship that my wife got me. She bought 5 square feet of real estate in like North Ireland, and that automatically gives you the title of Lord. So today you may refer to me not as Kris, you may refer to me as Lord Krohn. Lord Farquaad. I'm 6'3", man. Listen, today I'm back with Pam Barty because I wanted to have this conversation about investors compared to consumers, because investors think so differently and consumers think so differently. And Pam, look at all the investments you participated in. You've owned restaurants, you're in the game of real estate, you got multiple streams of income. And the reality is people like you and I, we get jazzed putting our money to work. We get jazzed having our money make money for us. But consumers in general, like their money is spent before it comes in, and they have a list. If it's not, they have a list of all the things they want to buy. And it's always like have. So I want to just, first of all, start today's conversation by saying, hello, thanks for coming in all the way from Boston for today's podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Kris. It's truly an honor. Truly an honor.
So dude, let's break this down. Like, have you ever seen that graphic that sometimes people present? It's called have, do, be. And then you've seen it in the reverse, be, do, have. And there's this argument. It's like, most people operate under, well, I have to have stuff so that ultimately I can be something. But yet there's nothing that you can acquire that will ever really cause you to be anything. You're just a consumer with stuff. And so at some point you hope that people go through this transformation of realizing, wait, be the person that you want to be in life. And it'll naturally lead to having the things that you want as a result, not as a pursuit. And so talk to me a little bit about what it's like being you, who has a lot of wonderful things, who makes a lot of money, and how you recognize that you perceive the world differently than most other people, consumers.
Absolutely. So a lot of our society, unfortunately, lives in this scarcity mindset. And I am 100% guilty of it too. And it's like, oh, there's not enough. You have to work hard to do this. And, coming as an immigrant to this country, when all you see is hard work, you think that you become successful by overworking yourself 60 to 80 hours.
I swear that is the immigrant's way. My father came from Germany, and I swear I saw him. He would always talk about these 16-hour days. Yes. And I remember looking at my watch, I'm like 24 hours in a day, 16 hours, he sleep for 8 hours. All right, so my dad works and sleeps. That's it. That's all he actually does. And it is so the immigrant mentality of like, well, I'm starting from behind, so the only way I'm going to get ahead and catch up for being a latecomer is by working my ass off.
Right. And then you look at the model of our society, right? So you go to school, then you go to high school to go to college. After college, you are instilled in all of this debt, most people, not everybody. And so you graduate college and you have this hefty debt behind you, and then you're expected to work a 6-figure job. And then, I mean, basically you're just like 60 to 80 hours a week. Usually that's an entry-level job. That's how hard people are working, including travel times and that kind of thing, right? So you're anticipated to go
Maybe in Boston, the millennials, they avoid the 60 to hour a week stuff, Pam.
Yes, absolutely.
You're not a normal millennial. You are an immigrant millennial.
So the model is go to college, get in a bunch of debt because you're in college, and then go out and get a job so that you can pay for that debt, and then climbing your career, working ridiculous hours, and then maybe have some time for family and everything. You have one source of income, and then you reap your benefits after you retire when you're 65, if you make it there. Well,
and if you do make it, and medicine is really good at keeping us alive, there's not a whole lot of benefit. I mean, listen, the average person, by the way, stats in this country, average human being makes in America $44,000 a year. Average combined household income is $68,000 a year. $44,000 a year, multiply that by 40 working years, you're going to bring home $1.7 million. But did you know that if you could keep every penny of it over your 40-year working life and spend none of it, it's impossible. But if you were to give a financial planner $1.7 million, they would reward you with $60,000 a year residual income, not a whole lot more money than you were earning your entire life. So you're right. It is scarcity minded. There's not a lot of cheddar out there. And yet everyone is brainwashed. I have to use that word because they're all thinking I have to earn one income. And if I want a second income, I either get a job or I find a soulmate that I'm going to put to work. And so people like, listen, I get it. In the 80s, you could have lived off of a single source of income. In the 2000s, you needed 2 incomes. And I think that we're now on the verge of declaring it 3. Like, how do you keep up with everything that everyone wants? How do you keep up with the Joneses on just 2 incomes? It is very, very, very hard.
It really is. It really is. And I remember, so I was in Italy, and this was when I was in high school, and it really hit me. I see all these tourists walking around, and I noticed that they're all older. Most of them.
Yeah,
90% of them.
Like 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah. And they're like sitting down because it's too hot out. And it's just because like you're old and you're walking. And I remember I had this realization that was so powerful. It's like, oh my God, these people are waiting to live now.
Yes. Yeah. My wife and I found ourselves on a river cruise in Europe. I was thinking it was really the coolest thing. I'm like, I lived in Germany for 2 years. We're going to hit all these ports. I get on the boat and I'm like, oh, I signed up for the geriatrics unit. Everyone here is in their 70s or 80s. And there's no amenities on this boat. Everyone, like, the amenity is a chair with a view. You sit. Yeah. And so you're right. By the way, great for people that are traveling in their 70s and 80s. The point is, wouldn't you like to travel in your prime? And how do you do that on a single source of income?
Exactly. Why not live now?
Yeah. So I love the angle that you're coming from, Pam, because that is the problem with society is we have to start with the problem. The problem isn't there's not enough money. The problem is that we're all trained to be a cog in someone else's machine. And there's nothing wrong with working for somebody else. There is something massively wrong with settling for a single source of income and being too lazy to get a financial education, which is available to everyone and all of us, that can allow you to earn a second stream of income, a third stream of income, and maybe by your 5th, you can quit your job, reclaim your time, and then come up with an 8th, a 12th, and a 15th stream of income. I mean, right now I have hundreds of streams of income. You're killing it financially. And that is because ultimately at the end of the day, we learned in our youth to think different. So here's my question. Why did you graduate college with your first degree and within a year own 2 restaurants, age 21? What was going on in your brain?
In my brain, it was that motivation from that person that told me I was too ambitious.
Oh, that's right. Wait. We got to hit this real quick. So you were in college, you were finishing your
spring semester.
Your finishing, yep. But you were doing what do they call that? Your practicum, or you were doing
like a spring internship.
You were doing your internship and you wanted to get your A. It's like show up, participate. Very easy. You're like assuming an A. Yep. You got a B minus. And
yeah.
what did the woman tell you she didn't like about you?
Like, Pam, you were too ambitious. You know, you raised your hand when you weren't supposed to. You're just an intern. You're just an intern. By the way, Pam's in there like trying to, let's reform this place. Let's make it more efficient. I've got great ideas. And they're like, no, we don't, sorry. You need to conform. And if you had conformed, you would have gotten an A. But instead, what happened when she told you you're too ambitious? Oh, that fire lit up so quick inside.
An unending fire burning your guts out inside that says, let me show you.
Yep.
So from that moment on, you decided that you were going to be on your own. So you started these 2 restaurants?
So it was weird. So I was like, what? I spent that summer before senior year saying to myself, what am I going to create? What do I know? What do I love? And then of course, being in the real estate, the restaurant industry since I was 10 years old, I was like,
you went to what you knew.
I went to what I knew, but I was like,
why 2 and not 1 though?
Well, it was crazy. It wasn't supposed to be.
Oh wait,
2.
I forgot. You're too ambitious.
So I was like, I love desserts. So I wanted to start like a dessert restaurant kind of thing. And so I love gelato. And I was like, I wanted to culminate my culture. I wanted to all of that. I wanted to create a space where people could gather and create memories and enjoy the finer things in life, like desserts, because I love desserts. So that was my model. And my store was called Ria. And what happened was I had a marketing internship. I was the youngest in the company. I never told them how old I was. I was 16 at the time, putting on events in like Cleveland and like Nashville and stuff like that. Like
freaking hustler.
It was crazy. And so that partner, he came back. So it was like, I was like halfway. No, it was like fall semester. So I was already working on my restaurant and getting that like permitting and all that stuff worked out to open that. And then he came and he said, Pam, we have an opportunity for a state contract to control the Esplanade. And the Esplanade in Boston is where the Boston Pops play. It's the Hat Shell. So we would control operations for miles, and not just for a brick and mortar that we had there, which was the Charles River Bistro, but literally from those who know Boston, Museum of Science all the way to the Mass Ave Bridge, which is like 10 miles. Meaning if we had that contract, we basically had exclusive rights to the whole thing, running the biggest operations for July 4th in the country, food operations. So of course I'm like,
how do I say no?
I'm like, I got to do this. I'm like, this is huge. So then I started working on that venture. So just the second one came out of the blue.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's not true. Just like there's no such thing as luck. You just listen, the ambitious will always find extra eggs, extra nuts. They'll do extra things. So let's talk about this. Clearly you're wired as a total weirdo, AKA the successful people in society that learn how to just grow and go find their next level, right? I kind of poke fun when I say weirdo because I think entrepreneurship has only recently become cooler. I remember when I became an entrepreneur, even saying the word was weird. Like I remember people would look at me like, dude, why would you want your own business, right? Obviously the economy is run on the backbone of business owners, but the majority of people aren't business owners. And so I just remember early on, I read the kind of books that started brainwashing myself intentionally into thinking differently. I was reading Richest Man in Babylon and Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I was reading all these books and getting a very different mindset. And here's what ended up happening. I remember when I had saved up, I had worked my butt off, Pam, for 14 months and I saved $5,000. I'm a 22-year-old. Wow. I got $5,000 in the bank. I'm a full-time student. I'm a full-time college kid. I'm also married. I got married crazy young. My wife and I were like 41. We're celebrating our 20th year anniversary this year. So crazy, so amazing. 4 amazing children. It's just been a beautiful life, incredible growth. It's nuts. And when I think about that $5,000, I was tempted to do, on the one hand, what everyone else would have done. Flat screen TV, nicer apartment, definitely not a 1993 Justy Subaru that I don't fit in and have to cock my 6'3" head to the side. Like there were plenty of opportunities to own some nice stuff, but I also, I had the facts in front of me. I had a weird experience when I was in college because I had this telemarketing job and it wasn't a very pleasurable job. It was hard. First year I must have talked to, a couple thousand people. And here's what they all shared in common. It's kind of like what you saw in your experience when you were seeing the tourists in Italy. For me, all of the people I'm talking to are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. They had gone to college 30, 40 years earlier. They had all worked for somebody else. They had all 401k'd, IRA'd. These were the more responsible subset of society. They were working on paying off their house. And so it's like I got to do an informal survey of a couple thousand people that did what I was told I should be doing and was in the process of doing in college. And you know what I found? I found that society's statistics are holding up true. Today in America, the average retiree in their 60s has $200,000 to their name in retirement. That's their 401ks, IRAs, all qualified funds. That's not equity in their home. They got $200,000. And if you give $200,000 to a financial planner and say annuitize this and they give you a 3 or 4% return on it, it's going to come out to $500 a month. Then you got Social Security, a couple grand a month, and you are screwed. You are now going to live the rest of your life in poverty. So I got this information early enough that it inspired me. I started reading all these books like, okay, dude, you don't have to stick your head in the garbage can to figure out it stinks anymore. This smells bad. And so when I had that first $5,000 saved in the bank, it was either spend it and blow it or it was buy an investment property. And the very first house I bought had a basement apartment as well. That basement apartment covered my whole mortgage. My wife and I lived in the bigger, more beautiful upstairs, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, all ourselves. And I ended up making $65,000 on that house before I sold it. And I remember in the moment that I bought it, because you said something earlier about the deal is made when you buy, not when you sell. And when I bought it, it already had $40,000 of equity. And I looked at my pay stub from the year before, $18,700 and some odd dollars. And I thought, how in this one moment, because I was willing to sign my name a million times, how did I just increase my net worth by double as if I had worked 2+ full-time years? And that was, in that moment, I realized something. The rich make their money work for them. Consumers work for their money. So what's it like for you living in a world where you got to have a lot of friends still that are consumers, right?
Oh God.
You still have friends that are like normal people, normal jobs. And they complain about the prices of everything, the price of gas and how much their stroller costs. What's it like being you as an investor, always putting your money to work and hanging out from time to time with other people that don't have money to put to work because they've already decided how they're going to spend it next?
Well, it's interesting because when you're dealing with people that are in scarcity mindset, right? The scarcity, like, oh, there's not enough and there's not this. And then they watch somebody like you come along and they're just kind of like, what the hell? Right? Like you were talking about your first property being, you rented it out and then it was covered the whole mortgage. And that was the first thing. Like I even advise clients and friends and everybody, I'm like, guys, do not buy a single family home on your first property. You don't need it. It's your starter house. Your property should always be working for you.
Yeah.
For many different reasons.
Now, you just said something really important because a lot of people are like, wait, Pam, are you saying I shouldn't buy a house? Here's what Pam's saying. When you buy a house, it's a liability because guess what? It ain't making you money. Why would you work so hard to save up your first anything and then say, hey, let's trap you in a bank account of bricks that I can't access? Now, I'm not saying that, by the way, a home will end up being your best investment. Like when you get to retirement, you'll think, wow, 30 years earlier, I bought a house and then I bought and sold over the years. And actually it looks like I've got more assets in real estate on accident than I do in all of my savings. We just figured it out too late.
Right? Absolutely. And what I advise is like, all right, so how do you make it work for you at the most minimal scale, right? So the average person's looking for their primary residence. Awesome. Go look at a 2-family or something that has a basement apartment, something that's different. Something that's going to save and make you money at the end. Because guess what? It's not where you start, it's where you finish, right? So that is just this, your real estate can be as simple as that. Even if you're just at the most basic level. Yeah. It's your stepping stone. Yeah. Don't think about it as 100%. Your end all be all. Yeah. You rent out that property just like you, Kris. My first property, we bought a multifamily. It was awful. Like it was terrible. But guess what? The tenant that was next door, he was there for 13 years. And I said, you know what? We're going to keep your rent the same, up it just a little bit. I promise we're not going to move it from there. Renovated our unit ourselves. And basically we now hold in that property alone, that was like 5 years ago. We hold like 400 in equity, something along those lines. 100K. And the property paid for our way of life for a very long time. And now we're cash flowing from that property.
Yeah, so smart.
And then now you sit yourself in a beautiful single family that is now funded from the multifamily that you bought before. And all of a sudden you're living for free.
Well, let's talk about what you did. You did, have you heard of the marshmallow experiment?
No.
There's a science experiment. I can't remember Stanford or Yale or whatever. And they put marshmallows in front of kids. And they say, you can eat this one marshmallow right now because kids are suckers for marshmallows. You can eat this one marshmallow, but if you wait 1 minute, I will give you 2 marshmallows. And they tracked these kids through life, those that could wait a minute for the second marshmallow and those that couldn't. And it turns out that knowing how to delay gratification is a huge indicator of success in life. Now, by the way, I am not talking about being a penny pincher that says, well, I'm good at saving too. I'm like, no. We said this is investor versus consumer, not saver versus consumer, right? Because you have your penny pinchers out there that still also get nowhere. What are you doing? Storing your money in a bank account earning 0.1% interest. I mean, that's nothing. That'll get you nowhere in life. Did you know that at 0.25% interest, it will take you 288 years to double your money in the bank? It's painful, right? I mean, obviously that's just a safe place to store money, but investors, let's not talk about what they're investing in. Let's talk about what they're thinking.
Right.
I worked my butt off. I made $50,000 this year. I saved $10,000. And the investor says, how do I double my 10K? How do I turn 10K into 20K? Because if it can do that, then it's working for me while I'm still working my butt off at my job. And maybe if next year I save another 10,000, maybe get a raise and I delay gratification of increasing my standard of living and spend, save now 15,000, my $5,000 raise added to it. And I throw that in the investor kitty trying to double it, but then I have last year's 10,000 and maybe next year I'll have another 15,000. And wait a second, after just 5 years of intentional saving with investing of growing your money, you're going to, like most people, make some stupid decisions where you'll lose money. You'll make some safe decisions where your money really didn't grow. And then you'll eventually learn this one thing. Investors have to develop a different tolerance for risk because they learn that the greatest risk, by the way, every consumer will figure it out eventually. Eventually they'll realize. By the way, check it out. Consumers see their investor buddies out investing. And you know what they're thinking? What does a consumer say to an investor when they're investing?
Oh, that's too risky.
Oh, that's too risky. Yeah, it's like they have a tolerance for zero risk. Right. But guess what? That's because they've been groomed into society's 401ks and IRA mindset. Basically all derivatives of the stock market that are single-digit ROI. And they're right. Single-digit ROI is safe. There's only one problem with safe single-digit ROIs. they don't compound meaningfully enough over 40 years to turn into the kind of money that you need. In other words, it is your fear of risk that has already doomed you, and you are going to be broke and then financially broken.
Absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about have it all, because I think we were conditioned to believe that we can't.
I know.
We are conditioned to believe that we cannot be owners of businesses, right? Like, oh, you're just too sweet. Go work for somebody.
Yeah.
You can still have your full-time job and still be a business owner.
Yes.
It's not, you don't have to sacrifice one for the other.
Yep.
And this is the problem.
Yes.
Once you get over that perception hurdle, like it's as easy as go get an E-Trade account, go buy some stocks. You are now an owner.
See, this is, Pam, you're bringing up something so important right now, because for me, when people are like, okay, Krohn, what's this have it all thing about? Well, let me break it down for you. Pam, you're getting married next month. I'm so excited for you. By the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
I've been married for 20 years, and I have to tell you that my wealth, my greatest wealth that I own, is found in my relationship. That wasn't always easy, but my wife and I have learned how to work our butts off and gone through therapy and counseling and courses and trainings. And now we have like genuinely the most amazing friendship on the planet. And I'm like, okay, every day I invest in that relationship. And as a result, it produces wealth for me.
Yes.
But you see, I also do that in my health. And by investing in my health, now I have a strong body that can support my decisions. Because I once heard someone say that at some point in the end, you would trade all your money for a little more time and a little more health, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, great. I'm investing in my relationships every day. I'm investing in my health every day, and I'm investing in my bank account every day. I am an investor that is investing. And because I find that if you live those three sectors, health, wealth, and your relationships, for me, that's my definition of having it all. And so what you just said right there of course you can do more. Of course you can have the job and have a business on the side. Hello, you can have a side hustle. But by the way, let's prove it for just a moment. Whatever your boss is paying you right now, did you know that they hope to get a 400% ROI on you? If they're paying you $100,000 a year, trust me, you better be producing $400,000 a year for the company for you to make sense. Well, if the company can make $400,000, 400% on your skill set, then that means you should be able to work a fourth of the time on your own and make the same amount of money you currently do. That's the math. The math is if you work 8 hours a day, then you should be able to work 2 on your own and make the same amount of money. That goes to your point, Pam.
100%. And it's the perception and that it's too scary, it's too risky, it's too this. Well, what about you write it down?
Yeah.
You write down, what are you afraid of in this whole circumstance? Whatever opportunity it is that you're looking for, say real estate, and you really write it down. What are your pros? What are your cons? I guarantee you by the end of it, you're gonna be like, oh, this doesn't look too bad. This doesn't look too scary. I can be a business owner. And guess what? As a business owner, you get write-offs, people.
Yeah.
You get write-offs.
I know there's 250 write-offs, and you get to save a lot more money and give the government a lot less of it. But by the way, they're also doing that because I think everyone should be aware of this. The government is a secret business partner. They're hoping you succeed because at some point they're going to extract, at least in this country at this point in time, 40% of your earnings. So every time I make $1 million, I begrudgingly set $400,000 aside for Uncle Sam and looking for every legitimate tax write if I can. Like right now I'm looking at buying a private jet. Less so because I want to fly private, but more so because I need some more Section 179 in my life. I need some more. I need some write-offs, and I hate buying something just for a write-off. So you have to be able to get some utility out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, Pam, you're 100% spot on. Here's the problem. Let's talk about consumers in 2 other ways. The first one is they live with this Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law, a derivative of it basically says that you're going to spend plus or minus 10% of what you make. You make $100,000 a year, you spend 90 to 110 grand. You make $500,000 a year, you spend $450,000 to $550,000 a year, and that's what keeps you in the rat race. It's the fact that consumers have made a list of everything they want to buy. And by the way, you might say, "No, Kris, that's not me. I don't have that list. I'm a saver." Yeah, it's the same problem. You can't save enough money for where you want to get to anyway. So whether you're spending it and enjoying it, sometimes I almost think that if I only had 2 options to be the saver or the spender, I would rather be the spender and at least enjoy my life because the saver is never going to make it anyway. No, the secret is though, you've got to become an investor. And an investor starts by saying, listen, how do I delay gratification for a short period of time? Just like you did, Pam, on your fourplex, just like I did on my entry-level house. How do I delay what I want for a few years so that a few years from now I can have whatever I want? And that's the missing piece. It is, I'll take one marshmallow today so that I can have two. I can get a second one for free just by waiting a little bit. And from being totally poor, by the time I graduated college, I moved in a custom-built 10,000 square foot mansion on the golf course, driving, the second most expensive BMW convertible and an Escalade brand new my wife was driving. We were traveling all over the world. We were living it up, but it was all because we spent the first 5 years basically delaying everything.
Sacrifice now and hustle now, enjoy later.
What are you enjoying today because you sacrificed and hustled earlier?
Everything. I get to live my purpose every day. I don't have to look at my bank account. I don't have to worry because I'm financially free.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about a darn thing. And I'm working on building my family and taking everybody to the next level. I get to live a life of true fulfillment and joy because I made the right moves when I was younger. Don't get me wrong. Those were hard years. And anybody who's listening is like, oh my God, you're so successful now, Pam. Oh, that's so great. Like, no, there was painful years where I was stacking credit card debt that still affects me now because it still affects you 7 years later. Like, there's all these things when you're first an entrepreneur, you go through these mental challenges of like, am I good enough to succeed? And I will tell you, in the beginning for me, it was strictly money that was motivating me. The game did not change for me until I made it about purpose.
Yeah. It's interesting, man, because it seems like if we go full circle back, how you break the cycle of the consumer mindset is, I think, two things. And maybe you have a third, I don't know. But the first one is stop the list. Stop, like you got a list of, well, what I'm going to buy with the next paycheck, and then what I'm going to buy after that, and then I'm going to save up for this. No, stop it. Stop spending before you have it. And then the second thing is you have to inundate yourself with books that will help you in time achieve financial mastery. You got to get the financial education that successful people have that you'll never find in the halls of a university. If you really want to learn the game of money, that is a self-pursuit. It's a choice. So make the choice. Make the choice that you're going to start reading all these books about money and start getting a different perspective on it. Because when I did, and when I stopped spending money, what it did is it allowed me to start saving money for my future investments. And then the book started guys, this wasn't budgeting. I'm not talking about saving. I'm talking about setting money aside for your next investment. I don't care if it's $10 a month right now. Everyone, I always give Pam this advice, and I want you to comment on this. I tell people you need to be saving 50 grand a year more than whatever you make. I don't care how little you make. You got to save 50 grand a year. And you might need to change professions. You might have to become better at savings. But I tell people you got to save 50, and it sounds so unrealistic, but it's to challenge how mentally jacked up we are. And it's to say, you got to learn how to invest. The second advice I always tell people is if you're saving 50, what I really want you to do is figure out how to save 100 grand. And that's going to really mess with your mind because most people, the average person makes a lot less money than that. So how do they even get there? Well, you can't get there out of day one. It's got to be a goal for something you want to do. And it's a mindset that says, shoot, I got to freaking hustle and pick something up on the side. Now you're getting it. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, I want to break the mindset and the chains of them that hold you back that don't work. Pam, how much money do you think people should be saving? You ever give savings advice or investment advice? When people have jobs, you're like, how much money people should be setting aside?
30%.
30. Oh, I like your number.
30.
It was interesting. Tony Robbins went through his game and he says, save 20%. Some people balk at that. I love your 30%. Grant Cardone, I once heard him say, you should be saving at least as much as you've got to pay your biggest debt to. He says, if your biggest debt is to the government and the IRS can extract 40%, then you sure as hell better be saving 40% for yourself. Bottom line though, is whether it's 20 or 30 or 40, guess what the thought pattern is? Don't eat your seeds. They're meant to be planted to turn into a thriving harvest down the road. 30%, that's aggressive, Pam.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised, but I like your numbers.
And another thing that nobody really talks about that I've learned in my quest, if you will, is that business is a spiritual game. And Tony Robbins says that all the time.
I love that quote.
Business is a spiritual game.
It's a growth game. Isn't that another way of saying it? Like it's going to force you on your toes. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to lick wounds. You're going to hopefully learn instead of giving up. It's a growth game. It's a spiritual game.
And until you say to yourself, I am worthy of this, and it gets you out of that scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Nothing will change.
I think that right there, you just dropped something really important. It's the self-belief. Yeah. And it can be hard to develop. I find that for most people, this whole fake it till you make it, you're gonna, some of us have to, we're not gonna get, the doubting Thomas. We're not gonna get the luxury of evidence. We sometimes just literally have to straight have faith and believe that something's possible. I was talking to a couple earlier today and they said, okay, Kris, we need some advice. We live up in Canada. We are looking for our second residence, but guess what? There's such a shortage of inventory out here. There's just not enough homes. So how are we ever going to find a house? It's just not possible. And I just said, you're not really telling me something that you believe. You're telling me something you've heard the media tell you. You're rehearsing someone else's narrative. You're telling me a story, and the byproduct of the story is that you can't and you won't. You need to tell me a story where you can and you will. And they said, what? They said, are you telling me in your entire area where you live that there couldn't be one good deal? Like, well, no, of course there could be a good deal. Good, then give me a narrative that allows you to find that instead of telling me how everyone else isn't getting what they want. If you want an unfair advantage, it's what you're saying, Pam. It starts in the mind. It starts with the mental shift. And for you, when you say believe in yourself, holding space for that, I love that. We're going to add that in right now. That's beautiful.
That you are worthy. Like, yes, you are. Like, you were not designed to just pay bills and die. That's it. You are an amazing human being that's here with a purpose, and you can live the life of your dreams. It's in your hands. Just, you got to believe it up here.
Friends, you've been listening to Have It All. Pam has been dropping nuggets of wisdom, and we've been sharing ideas with you on how to think more like an investor than a consumer. Shift your thinking, shift your reality. And so that starts with cutting up the list, believing in yourself, and start obsess. I love this word obsess. It has a negative connotation, so maybe that's why I like it. Meaning just to confront the mental blocks that we put up. I want you to obsess. That's what mastery is. It's when you go so far in the direction of learning something, you got to learn the game of money. Hopefully you're subscribed here, you're on my YouTube channel, everywhere else, where you get a chance to obsess on the real goals of the wealthy, the successful, and having it all. Pam, thank you so much for joining today. Everybody, be more like the investors out there, less like the consumers, or not like the consumer at all. Because if you'll just wait a little bit longer, you're not going to get one more marshmallow. You could get 1 million.